Okay, so thank you all for coming. My name is Dean Murray, State Senator for the 3rd District, and we're here today to talk about the governor's overreach, her mandate, her one-size-fits-all so-called solutions to a problem that is very real. We all agree that we have an affordable housing problem. What we don't agree on is how to fix it. We believe working together with local officials, local planners, local developers, keeping it local for very real reasons is the right way to go. The governor apparently believes that one size fits all is the way to go, that heavy-handed mandates is the way to go. Last year was ADUs. Now it's affordable housing. Where does it end? I want to share with you real quickly, because we have quite a few officials here today. One that couldn't make it is the mayor of the village where my office actually resides, and that's Mayor Paul Pontieri of the village of Patchogue. The village of Patchogue is like the model of reviving villages and downtowns all across the state. But why? Because they do it right. Mayor Pontieri said, one size does not fit all. The policy sounds great, but near impossible to put in place. And that's because there are local issues that must be taken into account, whether it's environmental or traffic or parking or garbage, and it goes on and on and on. The village did it right. The village of Patchogue has aggressively, the past 20 years, rebuilt its infrastructure, which includes investing in the expansion of their sewer plant to accommodate the housing and commercial growth, repaving of 85% of their streets, expanding their municipal pool and parks, and investing over $1 million in the Patchogue Theater for Performing Arts, to name a few. This was all done to support the nearly 700 new residential homes that were built in the village since 2003, of which 575 are within walking distance of the railroad station and downtown. And it must be noted that the new housing stock is a mix of for-sale units and apartments. The village already brings, and that brings the total number of multifamily units to 54% of all the housing in the village, within the 575 residential units, 150 affordable units. The village knows how to do it right. They did it right because they planned and they worked together. We've got officials here that you're going to hear from. I'm joined by my Senate colleagues, Senator Wyke and Senator Matera, but you're going to hear from officials from all levels, local government, local planning, all levels, developers, as to why this is a bad idea. And first, I'd like to call up Senator Wyke.
Thank you, and thank you all for making sure that you were here today to join us for this very important topic. Governor Hochul, in her overreach of power, has decided it's not bad public policies, a lack of public safety, and sky-high taxes that are driving New Yorkers out of our state. It's affordable housing shortage, and she has the solution. She wants to take away local control and fill our suburban towns with unwanted overdevelopment and multifamily dwellings. Claiming local land use policies were to blame for a lack of growth in the housing market from 2019 to 2022 during the pandemic. She further claimed that local zoning laws made it difficult, if not impossible, to live here and to move here. Local laws serve a purpose: to allow for a balance of commercial and residential living, good quality of life, public safety, and environmental quality. If a locale cannot sustain a large population, local laws are there to restrict overdevelopment in order to maintain a good quality of life and to decide how to safely meet those needs in order to grow. In her State of the State, she talks of growth for rates of several other states, and all I can think is perhaps that's where the exodus of 300,000 New Yorkers moved. The governor also announced that New York will be building 800,000 new homes over the next decade, and that every locale will have a growth target. Long Island's growth will be 3%. Does Long Island really need to grow 3%? Why is the governor taking it out of local control, out of local government? And is the job of the state to run and control our local government? We don't have an affordable housing problem. We have an affordability problem that affects everyone in this state. And thankfully, we have local officials here and developers here today to share why local government is so important in the role of development in housing and why we're not going to give it up without a fight. And with that, I will bring back Senator Murray.
As you've heard from Senator Wyke, we are going to be pushing back in the Senate, and we are joined by our colleagues from down the hall and in the other chamber, and that is our members of the Assembly. And I'd like to call up first our Assemblyman who is the ranking minority member on the Housing Committee, Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Dean. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here, and thank you to all my colleagues for supporting the Senate and the Assembly in this effort to request that Governor Cuomo revisit this issue and rethink her position, Governor Hochul rather, rethink her position on this issue. When I hear her talk about taking away local control if local municipalities don't do the right thing in their opinion, I hear her channeling the woke progressive left that is the dominant wing of her party today. And the problem with the woke progressive left is that everything they touch, they destroy. They have destroyed our energy independence. They have destroyed, and in the process, they are destroying our economy. They have destroyed our southern border, and because of that, we lose 100,000 young people a year to the fentanyl that is flowing over that border. Now, they want control of our local zoning, and they will destroy what makes Long Island and New York State the wonderful place to live that it is. Local control works. And we seek a cooperative relationship, a carrot approach, rather than the stick approach that she is putting before us. We had a very unfortunate occurrence on Wednesday when her choice to lead the Court of Appeals was rejected by the woke progressives. They packed the committee so as to prevent her from getting her choice. Governor Hochul has a choice to make here. She is either going to push back and not pursue this woke progressive agenda. I hope she is listening not only to her constituents, but to the people of Long Island, the people of Erie County, the people around all of our urban areas, the suburbs, that local control is the most important power, rather zoning is the most important power local governments have. And we have to maintain that. We are doing some wonderful things on Long Island, and the supervisors who will speak after I speak will fill you in on what we are doing to meet that very critical need of affordable housing. But Senator Wyke is absolutely accurate in saying we have an affordability problem, not an affordable housing problem. So I ask Governor Hochul to please revisit this issue, reconsider her proposal here, and to allow localities to continue to do what they do best, and that is to zone property correctly to meet that proper balance between commercial and residential interests for the benefit of the entire community and the entire state. So thank you, Dean, for having us, and I turn it back. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Assemblyman Fitzpatrick. And that's a theme you're going to hear throughout the day, is that we need to work together and we need to work with our local officials. The overreach, the heavy-handed mandates don't work. And there's an Assemblyman with us today that I'd also like to call up, because not only does he know government, but he knows development as well and can share his expertise there. So I'd like to call up Assemblyman Ari Brown.
Thank you, Senator Murray, for bringing us together for this most important event. There's no better and more efficient government than local government. Those involved understand the wants and needs of their constituents and neighbors. I'm now a New York State Assemblyman, but I've spent well over 4 decades in the construction, real estate, zoning, and planning industries. As a former member of a village zoning board, as the current chairman of the Board of Architectural Review, as a current member of a planning board, and as the current deputy mayor of a village, I believe that I and my counterparts in more than 535 villages in New York State, 64 of which are on Long Island, have the understanding of the importance of home rule when it comes to deciding what's best for land use. During the governor's State of the State address, the governor specifically stressed her ideas about TODs, transit-oriented developments, throughout the state. In other words, to create multifamily apartment units which would be in close proximity to mass transit, specifically the railroads. Where would these residents be commuting? Certainly not deeper into the suburbia, but rather into New York City. We were told to trust the science. Well, I demand that the governor trust the science, the data, and the logic of our current housing situation. I demand that the governor have respect for our environment. As we all are well aware, more than 336,000 residents have fled New York City, opening up a world of possibilities for Governor Hochul to do some creative zoning. I hereby propose and suggest that Governor Hochul create unlimited zoning possibilities, no floor area ratio, FAR limitations, or restrictions throughout the boroughs of New York City. The math, the data, the science boldly tells us that there's now room to fill the 800,000 new residents that the governor wants to create. More so, if we are able to save, if we are to save the environment, we should not be creating a situation where hundreds of thousands of commuters will be traveling to and fro. By creating all of this new housing in New York City, there'd be no need to commute. They would already be there, and so saving the environment from mass pollution. Smart and sensible zoning cannot be assessed and determined by a bureaucrat in Albany. That should always be decided by those elected officials that serve in the small community. Governor Hochul should back off from her aggressive housing plans, respect the data and science, and listen to the suburbanites of her state, not from city-centric ideologues that want to transform our small-town American communities into Manhattan. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Ari, for that unique perspective. We've heard from the state level of elected officials. I'd like to now bring it down to the county level and hear from our county elected officials. We have several officials with us today, and please tell me if I miss anybody, but Legislator Leslie Kennedy, Nick Caracappa, Trish Bergen, Jim Mazzarella. Oh, I was going to get to that. Of course, our presiding officer, Kevin McCaffrey. And also with us today is our county comptroller, John Kennedy. And I'd like to call John up to say a few words.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I want to thank my colleagues in state government for moving quickly to identify what clearly is really some misguided thinking by a governor who harkens back to King George. Apparently, she believes that she can just dictate from that second story of the governor's mansion and that the serfs will capitulate, and that we will have a supreme being who ultimately decides what the configuration is for us here in Suffolk County, throughout our 10 towns and our 33 villages. I would offer to you the response from us is very simple. Hell no. We will not sit there and listen to a governor who says that you will take corridors and areas, stack them up with individuals who get on a train to vacant and empty buildings in New York City. It is misguided thinking, and as your money man, I can tell you, we send that MTA over $20 million now that they spend frivolously, wantonly, and do not do anything that they're supposed to in order to service the local public. This is misguided, and quite frankly, it is an insult. $240 million for infrastructure. You'll hear from Supervisor Wareheim about the price tag just for our main street in Smithtown. This governor in this state got $12 billion from a misguided federal government. Where's the money? That's the issue that we need to address and confront. Perhaps she should go ahead and put some more cops on the street so people would go to the city instead of being worried about being thrown in front of subways. This needs to be scuttled now, and I will stand loudly with every one of my colleagues to make sure it happens. Thank you.
comptroller is very shy and holds back a lot. We've got to get him to exert himself a little more. I also wanted to mention, and how could I forget, of course, also Legislator Dominic Thorne. You were hiding in the back. His office is literally right upstairs from mine, so I should know better. And also with us is our newest, our county clerk, Vinnie Pulio. So thank you for being here with us. And before I go on, I also, and Rob Trotta. See, when I say give me the name, Legislator Rob Trotta is also with us as well. Did I miss any other legislator? I'm not there yet. But I'd also like to acknowledge our assembly members on the state level, our partners that did not speak but are here supporting us today. And we'll start on this side. Ed Flood, our new assemblyman. John Mickelin, who's come over from Nassau County to join us today. Keith Brown from Huntington area. And Jarek Gandolfo, who actually shares some district with myself. And Mike Durso, of course, who also shares Suffolk and Nassau County. So thank you all for supporting. I'd like to now turn to the town level. And we have supervisors here, deputy supervisors here. The people that are probably going to be impacted the most from this overreach is on the town level. So I'd like to start by introducing our Brookhaven supervisor, Ed Romaine, and our deputy supervisor, Dan Panico.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Governor Hochul. She's done a tremendous job of unifying us. So thank you for bringing us all together in a common cause. Very simply, we're concerned about the future of this island, what it's going to look like now, 10 years, and 20 years from now. 25 units to the acre isn't going to cut it. Most of my town does not have sewers, and if anyone drove here, they can tell you that the infrastructure on the roads is in need of a lot of help. I represent a town in which the 3 rail lines that cross our town rely on a 19th century technology, diesel. Governor, before you start talking about more housing, how about the infrastructure to support it? How about electrifying the rail? How about making sure the roads work? How about making sure that there's sewers? We live on an island whose water comes from underneath our feet. We don't need to contaminate it as we have by overgrowth in other areas without the sewers necessary to treat it. Housing is a real issue. I feel for people that don't have housing. We need more affordable housing, there is no question. But you know what? You don't get it by pronouncements like this. You get it by sitting with all of us and talking about common solutions that are within our grasp and that can be done. Let's work together. And thank you again, Governor, for unifying us in this cause, because we will work as one. Hopefully you will reach out your hand and work with us to accomplish something other than appealing to one segment of the population that really doesn't have a practical solution for the way things should be. Let's work together. When we work together, we can accomplish great things. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to my deputy, who's going to say a lot more.
Well, thank you, Ed, and thank you all. It's important we all come out because the public needs to know what the state is trying to do to Long Island. And 25 units per acre is not in character with really any portion of Brookhaven except where it makes sense. And in Brookhaven Town, we've approved projects. We want to redevelop, we want to provide affordable housing, but we do not have infrastructure. The governor cannot fast-track any of these approvals. The state cannot fast-track any of these approvals because of municipal home rule, because of SECRA. You will never get these approved. But outside the law, the town of Brookhaven, town of Smithtown, town of Islip can zone property anything. You can't meet Suffolk County Health Department standards without sewers. And while it's nice for the governor to say that she's making $250 million available for 880,000 units. I'll tell you from the community which I represent, because of the efforts of legislator Jim Mazzarella, the Forge River Sewer District, which is being built by the county, cost $232 million alone. The governor, as Comptroller Kennedy said, needs to show Long Island the money. If you show us the money, we will build the units. But unfortunately, many people here behind me have been in office a lot longer than I have. A lot of empty promises, a lot of rhetoric. The money never seems to come down to Long Island. We need that money. So as a solution, if the state wanted to do something many decades ago, there were two members of the New York State Legislature. One's currently the state comptroller. The other is a former legislator who's off in private practice making a lot of money. That's Mike Balboni and Tom DiNapoli. They had a bill which mandated, necessitated, seeing a need, 10% affordable housing for these projects. The state is well within their power to look at that requirement for affordable housing, but that may not make some of the donor class of the governor happy. The state is well within their power to take a look at that, and that would be something they could have a thoughtful conversation with the members behind me and also the local town governments. That's something that they could do almost tomorrow and would actually get done. Until then, it's empty rhetoric. It's going to be press conferences like this, and who's being helped? Not many people. The people behind me want to actually help people, and we ask the governor to do something meaningful and show us the money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan and Ed. And I want to take a second to reiterate, because, you know, in politics and government, the message gets twisted many times. So I want to be crystal clear. Everyone here acknowledges the problem. Everyone here wants to be part of the solution. What we're saying is, we're not saying we don't want affordable housing. We're not saying that at all. What we're saying is, there's a right way, there's a wrong way. Governor, your way's the wrong way. Work together, that's the right way. So I'd like to also now call up another supervisor who was actually mentioned a little earlier and can tell us a little more about the impact it'll have on the town of Smithtown, and that's Supervisor Ed Wertheim.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And you've heard from my colleague supervisors throughout Suffolk County on this issue. We also agree in Smithtown that the governor is off base with her proposal. I can freely tell you that we are manufacturing affordable housing on Long Island to the extent that's possible based on infrastructure. In Smithtown alone, in the last 5 years, we are approaching 450 rental units. 10% of all those units will be affordable, as the state law dictates. But we're putting it in the right areas where it's properly zoned, where we can meet Suffolk County Health Department requirements, and where the infrastructure works. And I will tell you today, the only elected officials that know how to do that on Long Island are your local elected officials, with the help of our county, state, and federal officials as well. So we are doing what the governor wants, but we're doing it the right way. You've heard from everyone here. She's doing it the wrong way. It will not work on Long Island. I can tell you right now that Smithtown was mentioned before, to sewer Smithtown, and we're working on 3 business districts. The price tag is approaching $150 million just to sewer the 3 business districts, where there are proposals for transit-oriented development around the railroad. And I cannot agree more with Supervisor Romaine. We've talked about it all the time. It's about infrastructure. It's about fixing the railroad. And we're doing it, and we're doing it right. Thank you very much for being here, and we hope you all support us.
Thank you, Supervisor Wertheim. Keeping on the supervisor path, our supervisor from the town of Huntington, Supervisor Ed Smith.
Well, first of all, thank you for putting this together, and I echo the sentiment that thank you, Governor Hochul, for uniting us. I'm Ed Smith, the supervisor of the town of Huntington. I'm here to speak out against Albany's control of local land use. As a former elected official, Governor Hochul knows from experience that Huntington is not governed well from the top down. Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill famously summed it all up by saying all politics is local. The politics of New York is not Republican versus Democrat. It's New York City versus New York State. Just 3 weeks into the governor's own administration, the extremists of New York City rejected an eminently qualified centrist judge and a Huntington resident, Hector LaSalle, for Chief Judge of New York. This rejection, along with the ill-advised Albany-controlled housing board that brings us here today, should set off alarm bells within the Hochul administration. I implore the governor to form a working coalition of centrist Democrats and centrist Republicans in the state legislature to govern from the center, as the vast majority of New Yorkers expect her to do. If the governor does not act quickly to reject the hyper-partisan politics of Albany, her administration will be window dressing for a veto-proof legislature for the next 2 years. Thank you.
I think you're seeing the theme here of the quality of local elected officials right now, and one that cannot be questioned, our supervisor from Islip, Angie Carpenter.
Thank you. You know, we have many examples in the town of Islip of our commitment to affordable housing, and it started way back 40 years ago with Carlton Park in central Islip. 375 units of affordable housing were built. It is still a pristine neighborhood, a neighborhood where drug dealers were rampant. The cops wouldn't go in there by themselves. It was a scary, scary place, and now it's a wonderful community. And there are so many more examples of those kinds of developments that have happened and are continuing to happen. Right now, we literally have hundreds and hundreds of units of affordable housing and rental housing and residential home ownership housing approved on the books, ready to go. But it all takes time, and it all takes cooperation. You know, the development that we're doing is the kind of development that's welcomed by the civics. It's welcomed by the people who live and work locally throughout our towns and all over the county. We've created that housing. We continue to create that housing in a responsible manner that is being responsive to the community. I've spent nearly my entire life living here in the county, fighting for all of us, not only in the town of Islip, but across this great county. Right now, we're under attack by New York State. They're attacking our right to govern ourselves, to decide what neighborhoods look like, to make sure they have the quality of life that we all want, and not turn them into New York City. I'll not let that happen. Home rule is what it's all about. Home rule is what the people want and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angie. We've heard from the local elected officials. We've heard from a developer. But when you're doing something like this, planning is absolutely imperative. And we have one of the premier experts in planning, the executive director of Vision Long Island, Eric Alexander.
Thank you. Look, we all know there's a huge affordable housing problem, crisis. We need low-income housing, we need services for homeless, we need working-class folks, we need middle-class housing in downtowns and transit-oriented developments. And many of the folks behind here, particularly the supervisors that spoke here today, whether it be Ed Romaine, Angie Carpenter, and also Ed Werheim, and we're going to work on Huntington too, to have been behind getting affordable housing in their communities. They've been at our summits, they've spoken about what they've done. And if you just go to the summits where thousands of people come together, you hear the numbers. 20,000 units of multifamily housing have been approved on Long Island over the last 17 years. The census data doesn't show that yet. We got to work on reporting. But whatever, we're undercounting what we've done, what the folks, the supervisors have done, number one. Number two, there's 10,000 units coming down the pike. So there's a pipeline of activity for workforce housing and affordable, but also clearly multifamily housing. We need to do more affordable. We all know that. So let's just, that's the numbers. And there's 50 communities, by the way, that have had at least one project done by transit stations. And so to say everyone on Long Island is anti, that's not true. And the hearings, 130 of 148 hearings have had more supporters than opponents. And then the supervisors approve these projects. Now, we can do more. Again, we can do more. So we praise the governor for raising the issue. We praise the governor for putting some funding on the table, though Ed Romaine made it clear you need a lot more, orders of magnitude more. So we need to get our fair share of real dollars from the state. That's another conversation for another day. We need incentives. We need sewers. We need more infrastructure dollars for walkable streets. So again, but a group like ours, we're a community planning group. We're bottom up. We don't want to be told by the state or the federal government or the county or anybody or any regional interest out of the city to say what you should do. Nobody wants that. Community planning is bottom up. So we say no to forced zoning by TOD and overrule boards and compact boards and things of that nature. We can do better than that, and that's why I want to end. In order to get complicated stuff like land use done, you got to work together on a granular level, civics, chambers, fire departments, school districts, all the folks that work with these guys here and more. And that's culturally different too. Black, Hispanic, Asian, South Asian, working class people. And yeah, the North Shore and East End haven't done enough. And they got to look at what they're doing and try to get more in, challenge themselves to do better. So that's where the conversation with the governor should step forward. We would hope she would ask, what do you guys need to produce more? And in my organizations too, and I think a lot of the people, most of what I've heard here today is, yes, we can give us incentives, give us sewers, give us dollars, get our fair share of affordable housing subsidized units. We only get 3%. We're 12% of the population, pay 20% of taxes. If we only get 3% of the affordable housing dollars, that's a problem. So let's work together, guys. We can do better than this. And I think the spirit of cooperation, last thing, I'm going on too long. I don't want folks to leave this press conference with two messages. One that says, Long Island officials are anti-urban. Or another one that says, folks who aren't for affordable housing everywhere are racist. Those two messages bring us further apart. What can we do to build trust? We got to build trust, guys. It's the only way this stuff gets done. And folks have done it here and out there. We got to pull together, and we hope the governor listens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. You've heard how important this is on all levels. It's so important, we actually have our new congressman that's come from Washington, D.C. to stand in support, Congressman Nick LaLota, who is not here. But he was here standing with us to support this because this is such an important issue. I'm going to close it with this. One of the issues, we just recently passed a bond issue, a $4.2 billion bond issue for clean water. We want and love our clean environment. We're on a single source aquifer. If we're going to develop in the magnitude that the governor's talking about, we must be careful to do it right. We must make sure that the impact to the environment is minimized, because you're looking at things as whether it's the pollution from traffic, whether it's garbage pickup, whether it's septic, whether it's sewers or not. There is an impact, and we must take that into account, which is another reason why it is so important we all work together. And with that, I thank you all for coming and open it up to any questions. Before we close it, I'd like to invite anyone else who would like to say a few words to come up to the podium. Kevin?
Hi, Kevin McCaffrey, the presiding officer of the legislature. Before I joined the county legislature, I was in local government for 20 plus years. And the most important thing we did was local zoning control. Whether I be speaking to a group of third graders or high school students, when they asked me what was the most important thing that you do, I said local zoning. We need to make sure that the community looks the way that we want it, that you want it to be. That was the most important work we did. The governor is going outside her lanes here. We've heard from the supervisors, from all of the towns here who have said the same thing. We are doing affordable housing. We're building multifamily housing. But we need your help. We need the infrastructure to be able to do those things. We're in a path right now where New York State wants to tell you how you cook in your kitchen, how you heat your home, and what kind of car you're going to drive. We can't allow them to tell us what our local community is going to look like and take that control away from our local government officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else would like to speak? Any questions? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.